Well, hey everybody, we're to the video about installing the winch. There's a winch in the plate, some of the sorted boxes, but I'm breaking down this thing and ran into a little bit of an issue. There's the front cover and screws, but in their infinite wisdom, Polaris decided to put the vent tube for the front differential right there in the center, and that's where the plate goes. The little holes there in the back, there's some holes there in the front, but put that plate on, gotta go right there over that hose right there in the way. So kind of stupid spot to put it in, so I'm gonna have to undo that, put the plate on, run that hose through there, put the hose back up, put the winch in, and put everything back together. It'll all clear, but it's kind of a pain and just kind of stupid, so we'll get back to it and I'll show it to you installed. Alright everybody, so there's the plate installed. It went in pretty easy. Those hoses are in the way, the radiator hoses, but there's the undone vent hose. I'm about to do it back up. I'm a little bit worried about these bolts here in the back for the winch. I think I'm going to tighten those up first and see where the winch sits before I try to do anything else really, and then we'll hook that hose up in the front for the vent and see what exactly the winch is going to do, because that actually might be in the way of the winch. If it's in the way of the winch spooling out, we may just pull all this back out and get a winch mount or bumper mounted winch for the front, since I'm going to get a bumper anyway. It's kind of looking like that might actually be in the way at all. They do these all the time, and that can't be the only place that's on any of these other RZRs. It's kind of, I mean, I see why they did it for a vent, but it's kind of in the way. It's kind of not, I don't know, design is wrong, bad design is the wrong word, but it's kind of in the way. So I'm going to look at it first and see what it does before I get anything too far into the install. I'm not going to wire it up or anything. I'm just going to look at it, and if I feel like it's in the way, we're not going to go this route. We'll just take everything back. I'm not going to take the winch back. I'm only just going to take this plate back and go a different route. But that's what the plate looks like. It's not bolted down. Going to bolt it down and sit the winch in there, and I'll get back to you when that's installed and show you what that looks like. So this is what the winch looks like. It's just laid in there. And I can't tell you exactly where the bolts are, but you see there's where the vent tube goes, and I can't tell if you can tell, but I can see there probably is going to be an issue, and that vent for the diff comes right up in the middle of that hole there. That tube of course goes down there, and you see my issue here. That's right where the rope or the wire for the winch cable comes out. The winch cable comes out. Come around here. You can see my issue. That is the vent hose. That is the winch cable. Now, if this was some old truck or race car or something I didn't really care too much about, I probably wouldn't worry about it. But if you're under load or you're doing something you got to be using this winch for, it's in the way. Now, I don't know what to do. I'm not going to take the winch back. The winch is not the problem. It's the placement for the winch plate or the placement of that vent. I can't move the vent, only thing I can do is buy the bumper. The bumpers for a winch mount, you know, or whatever they cost. But this right here was a $70 plate, and $70 ain't nothing, you know. Bumpers are $200, $300 for just a bumper. I don't know about a winch mount bumper. Those are probably more. But that right there kind of drives me nuts. I don't know why they thought that was a good idea. I mean, that's where the stock mounts for the winch plate are, and they decided that's where the vent needs to be. I might call Polaris dealer and see if that's where they mount them, if they've had any issues, and see what's up. I'll pause this video and give them a call, and I'll come back and let y'all know what they say. But so far, I'm not really liking that. There's plenty of tube, but it goes up there to the top of the frame rail up here, and just kind of stops. That's all it is a vent. I guess you could cap it, but it needs to be vented. I don't know. That's kind of a conundrum here, and I'm kind of at a stopping point. I think the bolts are fine. They come up pretty tight, so it can go back. But it's not back or forwards that's the issue. It's just the actual placement of that hose and the winch inside there. But that's where we're at so far. I'll come back and let you know. So guys, I think what I'm going to do, I called the dealer, but they haven't called me back yet. I think what I'm going to do is unhook this hose and get a longer one, because you see what I'm thinking about is going underneath the plate. But this hose is definitely not long enough. It goes up around the radiator here, up along this part of the frame, and just hooks into another port and just plugs in, just out of the way. But if I run it this way, it's definitely not long enough. I can go to Napa to get a longer piece of hose and run it around the front here, plug it in, and I'll zip tie it to that plate probably so it don't flop around, get in the way. But I think that'll be the best bet. That'll definitely keep it out of the way of the winch cable, the operating part. I think I'll do that. Get him to get me another probably 6 inches or 8 inches or so. It's hard to say. I can't measure it by probably about that long. A little bit longer than that. But I think that's going to be my best bet. I'm not going to wait on the dealership to call me back. I imagine that's what they do. But that's going to be my go-to. It's not an oil line or any kind of special line. It's just a line. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'll catch you on the video after the install is done, and we'll go to wiring and all that. Thanks. Alright guys, so the winch is in. I had to take the plate back out to be able to get the vent tube back on. It's kind of a pain. As you can see, it's out of the way. That's not it. It's out of the way now. Can't even see it anymore. The winch is in. There it is on this side. I just got a longer hose. The dealership never did call me back, but it's a little bit smaller diameter. It's thicker on the thicker around on the outside, but the inside diameter is a little bit smaller. It looks like it's the same, but it didn't want to go on that vent, but it went on there finally. Had to end up going with a different type of clamp, but it's not going to come off of there. It's definitely not in the way now. I went around the underneath side, and it's going to clear that winch cable just fine. Went ahead and zip tied it to the radiator loosely. It is not causing that any kind of obstruction, and it is down here, not going to catch anything. any more than it would have before I put the winch plate in. The winch is mounted in place. There's no instructions in the winch where to clock it. I watched videos about trying to line it up. All I did was put it over the holes best I could and put bolts in it, and then tried to get the bolts where they would not cross thread, and that's about the best I could do. There's really no good way to line it up other than that. So that's where it is right now. I'm going to get the Fairlead mount mounted on the outside and get the cable ran and the hook mounted and all that stuff mounted tonight. I don't know that I'll get the cables ran tonight, but I might. I took a long break earlier because I got a little bit too hot, but that's what it looks like. It's out of the way. Nothing's going to bump it. It's going to be kind of a pain to have to reach underneath here and do the free wheel, free spool. So I don't know if I'll do that too much. But if you're in the mud, you're going to have to figure out where that's at and turn it. But I don't know. I guess you'll just have to do that. The only other way not to have to do that would be to mount one on the outside, and I don't have a bumper for that, but it clears everything. I had to run these, I guess that's some sort of brake line, and there's an electrical line right there on the other side. I had to split those two. They're in a little keeper down there. They're not going to catch on anything either, I don't think. I'm thinking about putting a zip tie around those two, because just to hold them to the frame there, to kind of keep them from catching on anything, since I took them out of that keeper. But I don't know if I will or not, but I'm going to try and do that just to kind of keep peace of mind so I don't think about it. But anyway, that's where we're at right now. I'll do another video after I get everything ran and show you that part. Thanks. So hey guys, I'm back. The Fairlead's mounted. It's okay. I'm not super happy with it. You have to take out these 4 bolts in the front to mount the brackets here for the Fairlead. And that bracket that I bought from Polaris, the Polaris dealer, was I can't even think of the name of it. Some aftermarket bracket for Polaris, and then of course I had the Badland winch. Well, fits multiple vehicles or fits different stuff. Ain't all it's cracked up to be. Also, this is something Polaris did, which is kind of crappy. Right here behind the brackets, these brackets here, there's these 4 bolts, and I'll show you the bolts. I know why they did it. But it's got these bolts right here, and there you go. It's got these cutter bolts, and that's what those little dimples are for. They cut threads. Well, when they were putting this together, when they were building it, they had those little holes cut, and that helps mount the frame. It helps stiffen the frame. It does a bunch of different stuff, but they were way off. The holes didn't line up. So when if you were trying to do something with this, you would need longer thread cutter bolts, because you have to space these brackets out. These brackets here, you have to space them out to get this to work, because there's the way the frame rails are, there's all kinds of different shit in behind there. Anyway, those bolt holes were off, so even if I wanted to use the bolts that came with those brackets, I couldn't have used them anyway. So I had to take a drill and drill those holes out in a brand new side-by-side, which I'm not afraid to do. I just don't like doing it. So good thing I work at a body shop. We have all kinds of bolts and washers and nuts, and I finally found some bolts that were long enough to go in behind there, and some washers and some nuts, and finally got all that lined up. And then finally got this in there, and then, so we get to the Fairlead. Well, no matter if this lined up anyway, the Fairlead wasn't going to fit. No matter which way you turned these brackets, it was either too narrow or too wide. So the hole, you can see it right here, these little holes here where these are supposed to go was either way too wide, which you can see here, or way too narrow, which would have been way in here. So I got them mounted in, I guess, some sort of relief cut, which is in straight in line with this. It's just a little notch in there. That's the only way you can get this on there. Now, it's tight. I don't know what it's going to do. Probably the first time you try to use the winch, it's going to fly off of there and break something. I don't know if that's going to work. I don't know what it's going to do. Probably what I'm going to have to do is buy some 2x2 square tubing and make me some brackets and drill a hole where this will work, because that just scares me to use that stupid little cutout. That's not what it's for. I'm assuming it's some sort of relief cut or something. I don't know what it's for, but I don't think it's for mounting this. I can pry on it. It's not going anywhere, but as soon as you put 1,000 pounds of, or 1,400 pounds of side-by-side trying to pull it out of a mud hole, pulling it to the left or to the right, it's probably going to come flying off of there. All it's holding on is by some half-inch nuts and bolts and washers and lock washers. I don't think it's going to hold on too well. It would if it was in that hole. It'd probably hold on just fine. But just holding in a half-assed hole, it's not going to work. So that's what it'll look like. I don't know that it's going to stay there like that in this configuration anyway, but I think it looks good. I'm going to have to get a cover. I'm going to cut the stock cover to put back over this where it'll cover up the hole here, where it'll look decent. I don't like the way this looks open like this. It kind of looks goofy. So we'll probably halfway mount the stock cover back on here, make some marks, put a little grease or a little white paint on there on the inside where I can see where this is, and then cut the hole around this and that cover and make some modifications to the stock cover instead of buying a new one. I don't know how much they cost, but imagine I can do a good enough job to suit myself. Anyway, I think I'm going to stop for tonight and do a little bit of figuring. Maybe I'll find me some brackets instead of making me some that'll work, and go from there. But that's what it'll look like. I may go ahead and wire it tomorrow. I'm not going to take the winch out. The winch is set, but the Fairlead's the problem now. And so for now, I think we're done. I'll, for the night anyway, I'll start over in the morning, do the wiring. Going to do the wiring on the inside for the outside handle, for the outside switch and the inside switch. It actually came with a fairly decent switch for the inside. Where that is here. I don't know where it's at. It came with a fairly decent switch for the inside. That didn't look too bad. Oh, it's right here. This is the switch for the inside. I thought it was going to look goofy. I may just actually use that one instead of buying that $30 one off the internet. But I'm going to box all this stuff up, and I'll see y'all on the next one. Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Little update from last time. I've got the winch reinstalled. Ran into an issue. I don't know if you can see it or not, but if it's not tight, the cable comes pretty daggum close to that ever-present vent tube. Now, if it's tight, it runs free and clear and everything's good. In operation, I feel like it'll clear it, but I had to take, you can see those little pieces there. I had to shim the winch up off the plate. Now, I didn't think I would have to do that, but without those underneath there, it didn't matter if it was tight or not. Now, I'm glad I went ahead and free spooled out. I had to end up taking more out because it started getting loose, but that's what it said to do, was free spool it out, put the thing on there, but I guess I should have hooked it up. But anyway, I've had to have it in and out of there 3 or 4 times, so might as well have done it anyway. But if that's not the way it is right now, without any kind of shim underneath it, it would not clear that vent. But like I say, with it tight, it operates just fine. If it was without shims, it was down low and it was rubbing across the top of the brass part of the vent tube. But the way it is now, with it tight, it clears it just fine. I don't think it'll have any issues in operation now. I'll just have to keep an eye on it. I don't know what else to do. I took the winch out. There's no adjustment there's very little adjustment in the plate. There's a little bit in the rear. There's absolutely no adjustment in the plate in the front. I guess if it runs into any kind of issues in operation, I can take the plate back out and lengthen the holes in the front, stretch them down so it'll go up and raise the whole plate up. You're going to run into issues with the radiator hose, but it won't be that big of an issue. There is, like I say, there is some in the rear, but not very much. Number 2, I fixed my issue with the Fairlead brackets and the Fairlead. What I ended up having, that bugged me all night last night, what I ended up having to do was drill 2 new holes on the back side of the bracket there, and I just cut off the excess. It scooted it in a lot. You can see back there in the back that it's focused. I just drilled 2 new holes, scooted it in, and it scooted it in about 1/4 of an inch, and then I just chopped off the excess bracket that was there. It's perfectly fine. That bracket was actually serving no purpose. It doesn't serve any extra strength. It's not touching anything because of the extra little tubes back there, so it's really not serving any purpose. So it's fine. It's super strong now. You can actually, it doesn't wiggle like it was last night because it's actually going through the bracket now instead of just beside the bracket. So it's perfectly fine now. I think I'm going to go ahead and wire it. So now that'll come to that portion of the video. I will start doing that, and I'll show you. I'll have the progress in the next part of the video. Thank you. Alright, so here we go, everybody. That's the solenoid mounted to the inside of the machine underneath the hood. The wires ran. I didn't shorten anything because I've never shortened any of this wire before, but it's got power on accessory little bank right here, so you don't have to run everything to the battery. All the power wire run right there. I don't really like that, but it is what it is. It's the wire run down to the winch. It's all out of the way. It's zip tied up to the frame. It's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to get in the way. It's not real clean looking, but it's out of the way. Right now I'm going to get ready to do the wiring for the handle, the switch for the winch for the in and out on the cable. That's these two blades right here. Got to hook that up, run it through the firewall for the inside, and then you hook this up right here. That's where that mounts, and you have to mount that inside somewhere. Not sure where that's going to mount. I might remove this here and mount it in that spot there. I'm not real sure what I'm going to do. I may just run it through the firewall underneath there somewhere where that grommet comes out, and just leave it kind of hanging for now. May run some self-tappers down there pretty low. Just kind of see where the grommet comes out and go from there. But yeah, so far it's taken a while because I keep having to do everything 2 or 3 times. But the wiring wasn't terrible. Just kind of looks kind of crappy. But anyway, I'll do an update when I get the wiring for the switches run. Alright, you guys, so the switch for the in and out for the outside is installed. The cables run on the inside for the boot. I don't have the inside switch run. It's way too big for the dash. It looks kind of goofy. That's where it's hooked up to the accessory ignition. There's the black and blue wire for, I guess, for power. I don't really know. We're gonna go ahead and hook up the hook for the cable and try her out. So that's it, and I'll catch up on the next one. Alright everybody, there it is. It's all done. It's wired up. It works. It goes in. It goes out. Can't really do a video of it, but there's the cable plugged in. I'm the only one here, but it works. So, didn't catch fire, thankfully. I got it sucked in there so it won't let the slack out. All in all, I think it's okay. I'm not real happy with how everything fit, but for $200, that's not too bad. All the other winches were $300 or so, not counting the about $250, not counting the bracket, the mounting brackets, and everything else. So for less than $200, well, right around $200, you get a winch, and if you do it yourself, you can get away with not spending too much money. I know why people don't do it themselves, because this took me all of 2 days. I didn't quite start till 10 o'clock today, so 7 o'clock now my time, with taking my time. And if I didn't have to do everything 2, 3, 4 times, it really wouldn't be that big a deal. But 8 hours today and 8 hours yesterday, so 2 full working days, not knowing at all what I'm doing. You can, I mean, I know basically what I'm doing, but not having done it before. You can do it yourself. You can do better than what I did with the wiring, but I've never shortened this size wiring before. I shortened that red wire, but smaller wire I've shortened before, but that's not too bad. I mean, it's not just full of wiring underneath there, but once you cover it up, it won't be no big deal. That wiring in there is alright. It's up out of the way. As long as you get it out of the way for where your suspension travel is going to be and your articulation and stuff, you won't have too much trouble. What I'm going to do is, this is the switch that came with it. I'll show you what it looks like. It's not a bad looking little switch. Let me get up here in the light. It's not a bad looking switch, but it doesn't fit with the rest of the dash. It won't fit in this socket here, and this is where the switch is going to have to go. It may go in this farther one, further second. I think it's going to have to go here because the wire's just not quite long enough. I got the wires run, but I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and plug this in because it's just an open socket. It's the female end for this socket here, and just leave this inside the inside the cab, so the water doesn't get to it when I wash it off. Until I can get my switch ordered offline that I want to use for the inside of the cab. And then what's next? Light bar will be next, and probably some of the antennas, whip antennas for riding at night. Maybe some rock lights. I don't really know. I want to put some rock lights on it. Try not to put too much electrical stuff on it so it doesn't run down. When I was working it earlier, it was clicking, the DRLs were clicking off, not completely off, but they were clicking down when I was working the switch for the winch. So it draws quite a bit of power, but as long as the key's off. Well, and this is what I like about this thing. You don't have to run the power all the way to the battery. It's got accessory on right there where the red wires run. That's accessory on, and you got your ground and your battery. All that's right there, so you just run it all right there. Of course, that's your stuff for your winch, and that's your what does that say? Circuit breaker. But yeah, everything's run. It works. The bike works. So we'll see you on the next side. I'll go ahead and do the next video. Will be a update on the switch when it comes in. I'll go ahead and do it, see what it looks like. We'll probably hook up to something and pull it so you can actually see the winch working. I'll bring my tripod. Oh, and I'll do the cover for the front down there as well. That doesn't look bad without that there, but it looks better with that cover on front of that. But anyway, thanks for sticking with me on this thing. I know it was a couple of videos. It was long, but I'm going to jam them all together, and hopefully it'll be a good video. I haven't seen one of these on there, so maybe it'll enlighten some people and help you out. So anyway, thanks for watching. Take it easy out there and be safe. Thanks.